Long before temples and written prayers, people turned to bones for answers. Deep inside caves, far from the sun, archaeologists have uncovered circles of human skulls, arranged carefully, almost ritually, like guardians of the dark. Some were polished smooth, others still bore the marks of fire or ochre, as if they carried stories even in death. To us, they look eerie, unsettling, even grotesque. But to prehistoric people, these nests of skulls were more than relics. They were doorways. Doorways to memory, to dreams, to whispers of ancestors that guided the living through hunger and storms. Imagine lying in the center of such a circle, the hollow eyes staring down at you, waiting for sleep to drag you into visions. Yet with visions comes envy, and with envy comes betrayal. For if skulls could grant prophecy, they could also crown favorites, and rivals would not accept silence forever. What began as a sacred ritual of memory may have ended in blood. Each skull not just a relic, but a witness to lies. This is the story of the Skull Nest Mystery, when prehistoric people shaped dreams out of death, and when strange rituals revealed both the devotion and the darkness within the human heart. In the cold belly of the earth, where light dies and silence grows heavy, archaeologists have found circles of skulls, not scattered by chance, but arranged with care. Faces turned inward, jaws locked as if whispering to one another. Some were blackened by fire, their crowns cracked by heat. Others were polished smooth, marked with red ochre, as though painted to glow in torchlight. They were not just bones, they were symbols preserved across centuries. The caves that held them reeked of smoke and damp stone. Torchlight flickered against walls carved with scratches, handprints, spirals. In the center, always, lay the nest, a ring of hollow eyes staring eternally at the darkness within. Scholars argue about their purpose. Were these trophies of conquest, kept to terrify enemies? Or were they ancestors arranged in circles so their wisdom would never fade? Evidence hints at ritual, not war. The skulls were placed with care, not discarded in haste. Imagine entering such a cave. You would crawl through narrow rock passages, your torch sputtering. Then suddenly, the chamber would open wide, and there, in the center, the skulls, watching, waiting. To us, the sight chills the blood, but to those who came before, it might have brought comfort, a reminder that the dead still lingered, their memory captured in bone. Each skull was more than a relic. It was a voice, a guardian, a judge. The people who arranged them lived in a world of hunger and storms. Every season could mean death. Guidance was precious. If bones whispered answers in dreams, who would dare ignore them? Archaeology shows us the remains, but the story, the whispers, the betrayals must be imagined, and that is where our journey begins, not in silence, but in the echo of skulls. When the fires outside the cave burned low, the people gathered within. They placed torches in the cracks of stone, their flames casting long shadows that danced like spirits. At the center, the skulls waited in silence. The ritual was simple, yet powerful. A chosen dreamer would lie within the circle, head resting on furs, the hollow eyes surrounding them like sentinels. Breath slowed, the tribe sang low, their voices echoing against stone. The skulls were believed to hold memory. Each one carried the essence of a life once lived, a hunter, a mother, a child. To sleep among them was to sleep among ancestors, and to wake was to carry their wisdom. Dreams born in the nest were not ordinary. The dreamer claimed to see paths lit by fire, rivers running with silver, herds moving like thunder. These visions guided the tribe, where to hunt, when to move camp, when to prepare for storms. Some said the skulls spoke, not with words, but with images pressed into the mind like charcoal into stone. A red river meant blood. A broken tooth meant famine. An open hand meant peace. The tribe trusted these signs. To them, the circle was not eerie but sacred. It was a covenant between the living and the dead, a bond that kept the tribe alive through winters and hunger. And at the heart of the ritual was the dreamer, one who listened better than the rest. The apprentice chosen by the river reader was favored, his patience and calm earning the trust of all. Yet rituals that crown one voice also silence others. And where silence grows, envy waits. The tribe needed a dreamer, someone who could lie among the skulls and wake with visions worth following. Not all had the patience, some thrashed in fear, others awoke screaming, but one boy remained calm, always calm. He was not the strongest. His arms were thin, his shoulders narrow, his voice soft. Yet when he spoke of his dreams, hunters listened. They found prey where he said, and storms struck when he warned. His gift was not muscle, but listening. The river reader, elder of the tribe, saw this gift early. He placed his hand on the boy's brow and declared, "The skulls favor him." From then on, the apprentice knelt beside the elder during rituals, arranging bones with careful hands. His hair was long, braided with tiny shells that clicked softly as he worked. His cloak was patched with fur, worn thin but cared for. His eyes lingered on every crack in every skull, tracing patterns no one else saw. The people loved him. Mothers told children to copy his patience. Hunters nodded when he spoke. The apprentice's calm became the tribe's calm, as if his steadiness carried into their lives. He was not just a dreamer, he was hope. But hope always creates shadows. And in the shadows stood another youth, older, stronger, broad in chest and arms, the rival. He had always been praised for his skill with spear and net, but now the praise flowed elsewhere. Each vision the apprentice spoke felt like a thorn pressed into the rival's pride. When the boy warned of floods and the river rose, the tribe cheered. When he predicted herds and hunters returned full, they celebrated him, not the rival. The rival's fists clenched tighter each time. His teeth ground in silence. He smiled when the boy was praised, but the smile never touched his eyes. Inside, a fire grew hotter. The skull nest crowned one voice, and in doing so, it silenced another. For the tribe, this was balance. For the rival, it was unbearable. He swore that if the skulls whispered only to the boy, he would make them whisper otherwise. The apprentice never noticed the glare behind him. He arranged skulls, listened to dreams, spoke softly. His world was calm. The rival's world, however, was storm, and storms do not stay hidden forever. The rival began to linger at the cave's edge. While others slept or tended fires, he watched the apprentice lying among skulls. The boy's breath slowed, his eyes fluttered, and when he woke, words of vision spilled from his lips. Each time, the tribe gathered eagerly. They leaned close, hungry for signs. Where to find herds, where to avoid floods. The rival stood apart, his jaw set, his spear digging furrows in the dirt. In the firelight, his shadow stretched longer than the boy's. It loomed on the wall like a beast pacing in silence. The people saw only a hunter, but inside him, envy gnawed like a wolf at bone. Doubt is born quietly. One evening he whispered to another youth, "What if the boy invents his dreams?" The youth laughed it off, but the seed was planted. Seeds of doubt grow even in stony ground. When the apprentice predicted a storm, clouds came. When he predicted prey, hunters found it. Still the rival muttered, "Any fool can guess weather. Any fool can track herds." His words slithered from mouth to mouth, like smoke curling into lungs. He began to test the skulls himself. Alone, when no one watched, he stepped into the circle. He lay among the hollow faces, closing his eyes. But no visions came, only the echo of dripping water and the whisper of his own heart. The silence enraged him. He struck one skull, cracking it, then froze in fear. What if they cursed him? He placed it back quickly, hiding the fracture with mud. The skull's broken grin seemed to mock him. From that day, his envy sharpened into resolve. If the skulls spoke only to the apprentice, then the skulls themselves must be silenced. Or, failing that, he would silence the boy. At feasts, he laughed the loudest. At hunts, he struck true. But in his eyes burned a secret storm, waiting for the moment to break. The skulls watched both youths, one listening with patience, the other watching with envy. Their hollow eyes saw everything, but their mouths kept secrets. For now, one night, when the tribe slept and the fires burned low, the rival crept into the cave. The skulls gleamed faintly in the dying torchlight, their empty eyes reflecting sparks like watchful stars. He stepped carefully around the circle. His breath came quick, his palms slick with sweat. Each skull seemed to glare at him as though daring him to act. Still, envy pushed him forward. He bent, lifting one of the skulls from its place. It was lighter than he imagined, fragile as dry bark. He turned it in his hands, then shifted it slightly off its line. The circle was broken. When the apprentice entered later, guided by the river reader, he felt something wrong at once. The air was heavy, colder. He lay down among the skulls, but instead of calm, unease clawed at him. His dreams turned black. He saw rivers flooding red, fires collapsing into ash, faces without mouths screaming silently. He woke drenched in sweat, his hands trembling. The people watched in fear. The apprentice tried to speak, but his voice shook. The skulls are silent. His words sent murmurs through the crowd. If the nest no longer spoke, what did it mean? The rival stepped forward, his face painted with false concern. Perhaps the boy's gift has faded. Perhaps the skulls tire of him. His voice was smooth, steady, heavy with suggestion. The tribe looked to the river reader, whose face was pale. Doubt crept like frost into the people's hearts. The skulls had always guided them. Now, for the first time, silence. The rival smiled inwardly. The circle was broken, and with it, the apprentice's bond. The seeds of betrayal had sprouted, hidden beneath the soil of grief and fear. But skulls do not forget. Their hollow eyes see tampering. Their silence is not weakness, but waiting. The next morning, the camp buzzed with uneasy voices. Some believed the apprentice still carried the skull's whispers, but others muttered that his gift had withered like grass in winter. Mothers pulled children close, whispering, "Perhaps we trusted too much in a boy." Hunters, weary of storms and hunger, muttered, "If the skulls give no answers, then we are blind." Doubt grew teeth. The rival fed that doubt carefully. He sat by the fire and sighed. The skulls spoke once, but now they are silent. We cannot risk following shadows. His words spread like smoke, curling into every ear. Yet not all were convinced. Some still defended the apprentice. He has guided us true. His words saved us from famine. Silence does not mean he is false. Loyalty held, but it wavered. The river reader struggled. His voice cracked when he said, "The circle was broken. The silence is not the boy's fault." But few listened. Grief had clouded reason, and fear sharpened suspicion. At council, the elders argued until their voices echoed off stone. Some demanded the apprentice prove himself again. Others warned that a second failure would doom them. The rivals said little, but every glance fed the fire of division. That night, the apprentice sat alone by the river. His reflection wavered on the water's skin, fractured and uncertain. He wondered if the silence was truly his fault, if perhaps the skulls had turned from him. The rival watched from shadows, his smile hidden. Division was the first victory. A tribe that doubts itself can be led anywhere. All he needed now was the final break. And so the circle of skulls became more than ritual. It became a battlefield, one of trust against envy, memory against lies. The elders decided on a trial. The apprentice would lie once more within the nest. If the skulls remained silent, then his gift was broken. If they spoke again, doubt would end. Torches filled the cave with wavering light. The skulls stared outward from their circle, shadows dancing across hollow eyes. The apprentice entered slowly, fear pressing against his ribs. He lay among them, waiting for whispers. The tribe sat in silence, breaths shallow. The rival lingered near the edge, his eyes fixed not on the boy, but on the bones. As the apprentice drifted, the rival acted. He moved quickly, pretending to adjust a torch. His foot pressed hard against one skull, nudging it aside. The circle shifted, and with it, the balance. A sharp crack echoed in the chamber. The people gasped. The apprentice's eyes flew open wide with shock. He sat up, staring at the rival's hand upon the skull. For a heartbeat, silence held. Then the river reader rose to his feet. His voice trembled, but it was strong. You broke the circle, not the boy. You silenced the skulls with your envy. Murmurs surged through the cave. Mothers clutched their children. Hunters growled low, their eyes narrowing at the rival. The truth had been seen, undeniable. The rival stammered, his face pale in the torchlight. It was an accident. But the skulls seemed to glare with judgment, their empty sockets filled with fire. The apprentice, still trembling, whispered, "They spoke again. They said envy bends truth." His words fell like stones into water, sending ripples through the tribe. The lie had unraveled. The betrayer stood exposed, his envy burning brighter than the torches around him. The cave roared with voices. Some shouted for exile, others for blood. The rival's name hissed like a curse on every tongue. But the river reader lifted his staff, and silence fell heavy. "The skulls will judge," he declared. His voice cracked with age, but it carried through stone. "Let him lie where he tried to deceive. If he is innocent, they will forgive. If guilty, they will not." The rival's face blanched. He opened his mouth to protest, but hunters seized his arms. They dragged him toward the circle, his heels scraping against stone. The apprentice watched, heart pounding. He was thrown into the nest. The skulls rattled as his body struck the ground. Their hollow eyes stared down at him, and the firelight painted their grins in red. The tribe stepped back, torches raised high. The rival lay rigid, his breath sharp and shallow. Shadows closed around him, and the whispers began. No one else heard them, only he. 1,000 murmurs, dry as dust, crowding his ears. They spoke of envy, they spoke of lies, they spoke of punishment. His eyes widened in terror. He screamed. His body thrashed against the stones. The skulls seemed to tighten around him, as if the circle itself had teeth. The people stood frozen, their torches trembling. At last his cries faltered, his chest heaved, sweat dripping from his brow. He crawled out of the circle, his face pale as bone. His voice broke as he whispered, "They curse me." The river reader raised his hand. "The judgment is spoken, he is cast out." Hunters tore the furs from the rival's shoulders. His spear was broken across the stones. His name was forbidden at the fire. No one reached for him, no one spoke his defense. He stumbled to the mouth of the cave, the torches casting him in shadow. Behind him, the skulls gleamed like eyes that never closed. The rival stumbled into the night, swallowed by snow and silence. His figure faded across the tundra until even his footprints vanished. None followed, none spoke his name again. The apprentice returned to the circle, kneeling among the skulls. Fear trembled in his chest, yet calm returned as he laid his hand upon the nearest brow. The hollow eyes seemed softer now, as if approving. That night he dreamed again. He saw rivers swelling with silver fish, herds moving like shadows across grass, firelight warming the tribe through winter storms. He woke with tears in his eyes. The people rejoiced. Trust was restored. The skull nest once broken was whole again. From then on, no one doubted that bones carried voices, and that envy could silence them only briefly. Generations passed, and the ritual endured. Skulls were placed with reverence, each new circle growing larger. They became not only oracles, but judges. No lie could survive long within their gaze. Archaeologists today find only fragments, circles of bone, traces of ochre, fire-scorched crowns. They do not hear the whispers. They do not see the visions, but they feel the weight of strangeness in those caves. The skull nest mystery remains. Was it prophecy, punishment, or both? A ritual born of fear or of faith? Perhaps it was all of these. Perhaps the people of prehistory understood something we have forgotten. What we know is this: the skulls watched, and the skulls remembered. In their hollow silence lived the echoes of betrayal, envy, and truth. And so the story endures. A circle that cannot be broken, a mystery carved not in stone, but in bone. The skulls of prehistory still lie in circles beneath the earth. To some, they are only bones. To others, they are witnesses, guardians of memory, prophecy, and judgment. Their silence is not empty. It reminds us that even in the earliest days, people carried rituals of wonder and fear, of devotion and betrayal. The skull nest mystery is not just about the dead, it is about the living and the stories we still tell. If this story unsettled you, intrigued you, or left you wondering what else the past still hides, then join us on this journey. Like this video, share it with those who love dark history and ancient mysteries, and subscribe to The First Betrayals, because the bones have not stopped whispering, and neither have we.